Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another amazing episode of History of the Marvel Universe. This week's tale begins with an overprivileged high school student named Oliver Osnick. Ollie had founded a supervillain fan club with his classmates using his parents' money to give them elaborate costumes. He was even able to create a functioning facsimile of the mechanical tentacles belonging to his idol, Dr. Octopus. The other children mocked him for wanting to celebrate Oc's latest escape from prison, and Ollie lashed out. His parents, Milton and Zelda, returned home to find their rec room trashed and their son missing. Striking out into the night, the pint-sized octopus began a miniature crime spree, stealing candy and comic books. His childish robberies leading him to a large toy store where he was confronted by a security guard. Accidentally striking the guard with a metal tentacle while trying to escape, Ollie worried that he may have seriously injured the man. His panic would be exacerbated with the intervention of the amazing Spider-Man, who, from a distance, mistook Ollie for Doc Ock. During the pursuit, the boy was knocked into a pool of water and Spidey dove in after him. It wasn't until then that the web slinger got close enough to discover that the metal tentacles were far more fragile than the ones used by the master criminal. After pulling Ollie out of the water, Spider-Man gave the would-be villain a stern talking to. Much to the boy's relief, Spidey revealed that the guard had already recovered and that he had left behind some money to cover the damages to the store. This caused Ollie to redirect his adoration from Dr. Octopus to Spider-Man. After failing to recreate his new idol's trademark web fluid, Ollie rebuilt his tentacles into a set of mechanical spider legs and declared himself the Spectacular Spider Kid. In this identity, he bumbled his way through a clash with the street gang called the Blazing Skulls. Meanwhile, at school, he still had to endure bullying from Brad Rossi, a former member of his supervillain club. However, Brad's girlfriend, Jane Lane, chewed him out and broke up with him since she wasn't a fan of bullies. Later that night, Oliver, as Spider Kid, used a makeshift spider signal to get his hero's attention. Ollie wanted to join him as his sidekick, but of course Spider-Man had no interest in bringing a child into dangerous situations. Dejected, Ollie ran off, only for Jane to recognize him from the streets below. Jane wanted to talk to Ollie, but he was also noticed by the Blazing Skulls gang, who wanted revenge for their earlier humiliation. Ollie prepared to defend Jane, but it was the presence of the real Spider-Man that caused the Blazing Skulls to retreat. Realizing exactly what had happened, Ollie agreed to stop being Spider Kid. The next day, Spidey swung by Ollie's school to bury the hatchet. Their association also helped solve Ollie's bullying problem. Furthermore, Ollie and Jane began to grow close after this. But Ollie did briefly appear as the Spectacular Spider Kid one more time. Two amphibian adversaries, Frogman and Toad, were feuding over the right to be Spider-Man's partner. However, Spider Kid arrived on the scene to stake his own claim. The three misfits ultimately decided to stay together as a team, but this didn't last. Ollie retired the Spider Kid identity for good, putting his focus on his schoolwork, his relationship with Jane, and with getting into shape. While Ollie and Jane were in their senior year and deciding on how to proceed while potentially attending different colleges, a gang dispute at the school escalated into a shooting, and Jane was struck by a stray bullet. She thankfully survived, but the bullet had hit her spine, potentially leaving her paralyzed. Ollie may have given up being Spider Kid, but in the intervening years he'd continued to tinker with his equipment. In his rage, Oliver Osnick went after the gang members in a new costume, calling himself the Steel Spider. His new suit contained a bulletproof mesh, as well as a cybernetic system giving him mental control over his spider arms, which could now retract to fit neatly in his backpack. His gauntlets were armed with a pepper spray for blinding opponents, a mesh net for quick capture, and a grappling hook allowing him to make a quick getaway. As the Steel Spider, Ollie tracked down the shooter responsible for Jane's condition, a fellow student named Tony McDonald, and severely pummeled him. However, Oliver stopped before taking the man's life, disgusted by his own violence, and swore never to go that far again. Fortunately, Jane awakened in the hospital and seemed to be on the road to recovery. Ollie was able to contribute by turning the steel spider into a street fair attraction. With the money earned, he helped pay for Jane's medical expenses and physical therapy. During this time, he was attacked by a minor villain calling himself the Master of Vengeance, who, following the confusion of the Clone Saga, mistook Ollie for Spider-Man. The villain attempted to knock over a Ferris wheel, forcing the steel spider to brace it against his legs. However, Jane intervened, knocking the Master of Vengeance over long enough for Ollie to rescue the civilians. The steel spider then knocked down the mad villain and bound him in a steel mesh web net. Oliver Osnick then faded into obscurity, although he reportedly fought alongside Darkhawk and the New Warriors during the Onslaught incident, but we never see this directly. In fact, the Steel Spider was unheard of for years after this until he resurfaced in Phoenix, Arizona shortly after the first superhero civil war. It seems in the intervening years he had grown mentally unstable and began violently attacking criminals again. It's unknown what became of his relationship with Jane, and he evidently dated another woman, Sandra, who broke it off with him after he became the Steel Spider again. This was during the time that Norman Osborn, the former Green Goblin, was leading a government-run version of the Thunderbolts, dedicated to capturing unregistered superhumans. Reminded of his arch-nemesis Spider-Man, Osborn deigned to apprehend the Steel Spider. Ollie may have been outclassed by the Thunderbolts, but he was joined by two other vigilantes, American Eagle and Sepulchre. Regardless, the Steel Spider was defeated when the monstrous half-alien creature Venom ripped off his left arm. Ollie survived, but he was arrested and confined in a negative zone prison. While Ollie Osnick has not been seen since then, Captain America is evidently aware of who he is and what Osborn's team did to him, so this may not be the end of the Steel Spider. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, share the video, and subscribe for more Marvelous content. Be sure to leave a comment letting me know what Marvel hero or villain you want to hear about next, and as always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to other places you can find me, including my Patreon page where for only $1 a month you can get your name in these special thanks here. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!